Okay, we are back. I apologize for that technical hiccup. I think I know what happened and won't happen again. Bumped a cable and that stopped the recording. Kind of need the recording for later on. So, what kind of inspired that three Falcon list? Because that
Uh,
that
I
was
I
amusing.
wanted to I wanted to know if it would fit, and it does. That's pretty much all it was. Will it fit? It will. Cool.
Can I drop all of them at the exact same time if I really wanted to? Yes.
Yes, because thanks to Lando, I do have some timing issues where I can move at I-4 with Chewie, and then wait for the opponent to move, and then when Lando moves, can have Chewie drop it, or Ray can move and then drop it, or drop it, or Ray can drop it before she moves. All thanks to Lando. And like I was able to trap Ethan with one where he got stuck landing on one, and I almost got him a second time. But it's really the only trick the list has, but it is funny.
Well, I feel like with that much hull and shields, you could probably find a way to make optimize that list a bit more.
Not the problem though is three attack die, and I think he also had HLC and stuff with Ethan's list and large spaceships and HLC. They're sorry. It doesn't matter if you have heroic and you're at range 3 or through an object and have Finn to help you out. You're
Sorry,
still gonna burn
HLC
pretty quick.
define.
Oh, heavy laser cannon.
Okay,
Good old bullseye only cannon.
The main problem with Sean's list is not that he can tank a lot. He can indeed tank a lot of damage. The problem is he has absolutely, besides Ray, no real way to dish out a lot of damage. And so, for example, if you were to put all three Falcons on one T-70, they might kill it. But then you have all three shots going into just one instead of, having a bunch of other ships that can do a lot more with their shots.
Ray
gotcha.
can murder pretty good, and then Lando with his ability can do the old give this person a lock and focus and that kind of thing. Um, but because he's using three, and the opponent is not going to let you keep all the ships super close together, uh, it becomes really hard to get all three ships onto one target. In addition to, um, why shoot a range 3 shot with Chewie when you can shoot this range 1 over here instead? And so you usually end up blowing all of Lando's ability, so that way you have block focus with those two ships to try and maximize as much damage as you can. And if you push it through, you're in good shape. If the ship lives, you probably die, lose, that kind of thing. It's just a
Um,
one trick pony list.
and then, as I said, we were going to talk about the other matchup because that went kind of quick, so we had time to play another game,
Yeah.
and and that one also went kind of quick.
It's a list that I have only played like 3 or 4 times. It has won once, and the only reason it won was because I took everybody and boosted and surprised the guy, and he forgot how fast 4 straight boosts and whatnot can go, and got
Gotcha. Well, when I played Ethan, I flew badly.
There were many debris hit in the span of one round.
And a lot of bumps, and yeah, I just
him.
that's I've gotten so well. For one, I'd been rusty because it had been a couple weeks since I played, no doubt about that. But the other thing is that I'm used to flying decimator lists, so I did not have a full grasp on flying six ships in formation. Uh, you know, Formation flying is not horribly difficult, but it's usually done with smaller groups, and so yeah, that was a challenge, and I think I've got an answer to that now. But I also did not have the optimal list, and I have taken Dexter's advice actually and switched to Gideon Hask for my TIE fighter, largely because missiles.
Yeah, I personally, for 3 points, if you're not using Larir, I like to lean towards Gideon for a fill-in TIE fighter, just because I feel like he hits the hardest out of all the 3-point TIE fighters. I know he doesn't have, he's only I-4, so he doesn't get the I-5 some of them have, but I really like the concussion missiles for 4 dice, and usually he's shooting after somebody else's dealt damage pretty consistently in just about any Empire list.
Well, and he has a really significant loadout too. I mean, 12 points of loadout is pretty nice. Now you do have to use 1 point for a targeting computer if you're planning on using those missiles.
Unless you have a good old tracer.
I do, but I feel like it's worth spending the point as a backup in case the guy that you've got running tracers is not there anymore.
That's true, but also a missile on a TIE is kind of gimmicky, anyways.
True.
Honestly, just getting the extra die on any attack is still better than nothing as long as it's damaged.
Yeah. Honestly, though, I'm actually running cluster missiles. Just because for one, I like the number of charges that it has. But, it's going to be one of those trial and error things. We'll experiment around and see how it goes. And I have a really different idea on the starting setup for the build as well. So I'm anxious to see how that works out tomorrow.
And I found, I think, with swarms, especially bigger ones like you mentioned, a large part of it for me as I'm learning to fly them is not just the setup of the actual swarm, but the rocks. Like, if you don't place your 3 rocks or whichever 3 obstacles that you grab correctly, it's really easy to end up with the whole map just not open for swarms.
Yeah.
So I've been working on that a lot for mine.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that and be careful when I set up tomorrow. I'm not sure if I'm going to play on the stream or if I'm going to let somebody else go on there, because seeing new and different things is always more fun. But I don't think everybody wants to hear us go on about a couple what I would consider bad games. I don't think anybody can argue that those were bad games.
I mean, yeah. Jank versus Jank is always fun, though.
What I really want to talk today about is the Battle of Endor previews that we've been seeing. And, the one thing that we haven't seen is how many points some of these things are going to cost. But, you've got the Endor kit, which to me makes it look like the Battle of Endor is going to be... There's not really going to be a Death Star involved in this, I don't think. I think it's more like your fighters up against a Star Destroyer or a Super Star Destroyer based on the setup.
Which is honestly kind of fine, because we already have a Death Star that we can blow up in the Battle of Yavin Pack, and so not having, another just entryway and then you have to get a crit through is kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean the pilots that they have thrown in here are pretty interesting. But before we get into those, I do want to take a look at the turbo lasers that they've thrown out there, and recognize that all of this is like end of turn, and I'm just kind of wondering with what kind of balancing mechanic they're going to have on these, just based on the fact that okay, if you're playing the Imperial side, you're getting the benefit of these things, whereas what are the rebels getting on the other side of that?
Probably a lot more loadout in their squad building part, unlike the Empire, who's probably going to have a little bit more limitation.
Okay, that makes sense.
Kind of like with the Mando thing that we did this weekend, where it was 23 and 18. You're likely going to have something similar to that.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious as to how that went, because I actually was not able to get involved in that, and how that works out.
I lost at the list building stage.
It didn't help that you also technically forfeited with your first game, where we were supposed
Yeah,
to be playing 2020 list, and Sean brings out his 18-point list, and
yeah.
yeah, I only had 3
Proceeding
ships
to lose.
against.
Yeah. Oops.
Do you think
There
that's
was one where he had to bring 3 lists, and I grabbed the wrong list. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who's going to have done that.
do you think that's kind of making up for the fact that okay, we haven't seen any real scum scenarios come out? I mean, you've got Battle of Yavin, you've got the Battle of Coruscant, and now you're getting the Battle of Endor, but there are factions that haven't been represented here. I mean, we don't have anything for Resistance or First Order or for Scum.
And probably not any for some time. I Scum would be hard to balance though, or find a good scenario for it, unless it's like Siege of Mandalore or something, where it's got like Republic or CIS stuff in it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, with the Mandalorian, there was the one battle. I guess you could do a Mandalorian setup versus the Empire, and get Scum involved in that way. But it'd be kind of tricky. But I feel like with all of these cards that they're coming out with for specialized characters, then they're probably going to have to do something soon. Otherwise, well, I don't know how closely they're listening to the fan base at this stage. But
We shall see.
it is nice to see new stuff. Do you have a favorite of the cards that came out? I'll start with you, Ethan.
Who can't love an I6 defender with a chance to get 5 dice at range 3? I don't think it can get much better than that.
Is that Jindin?
Uh-huh.
Thought that's what you were talking about there.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Jinden is going to be... He's going to be at least the jank of the, probably all the cards. As much as his ability is good, if you miss the bullseye, then you miss the bullseye.
Yeah.
And let us not forget that because it's a standard Lord Elk card, that means they're going to be underpriced from what they should be.
Assuming they are going to be underpriced. I hope they're priced correctly, but I wouldn't mind an I7 defender or an I6 like 7-point defender.
Well, I think my favorite part about all that is a free target lock.
Yes, the trading for the full throttle to the Chiss, for instead of doing a 3 to 5 to get an evade, getting a 3 to 5 to target lock, with the addition of spending a shield for the apply the range 1 bonus while you're attacking, is insane.
Yeah.
In my opinion, when you have a proton cannon or, for example, the other defender that has a primary and a ion cannon and he can double tap with both of them, fairly strong, but it just makes your defenders very flimsy when you have an ability where you are spending a shield to hit harder.
Yeah, I'm not so worried about the spinning the shield. I don't know that I necessarily would actually do that. I mean, I guess there's a time and a place. It's a calculated maneuver. I really don't like the whole idea that he gets bonus stuff when he has no shields. I think that's kind of a bad idea in my opinion. But
Well, what you do is you just flank with the ship, and so long as it's not being shot at, that, and also don't risk getting chance, because a ship with 3 agility, with that much health and a 5 straight and get away, you're fine if you get down to 1 or 2 health, and then in all the other 3 scenarios, and then just run away, and then make them chase you.
yeah, now that's one thing that we none of us know at this point is how much these are going to cost as far as points costs are concerned. But Sapphire is also interesting. You said, were you saying that it could double tap?
Sapphire is not the one I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
There are 2 defenders that were leaked. There is the most recent one, which is Colonel Jendon, but there is also the other one that was announced at the Adepticon of last year, as well as the Battle of Endor Wedge, which we also have a full-blown image
Okay.
as well for.
Yeah, I haven't seen those, and I don't have those called up in my queue there, so I'm not sure what those look like. So I apologize for that for my viewers here.
They're
But
fairly interesting ships, to put the least.
but I feel like the Sapphire 2 is probably going to be a three pointer, just based on what I'm looking at here, and the fact that they typically are undercosted when you bring out the preloads there like that. Any thoughts on that?
Well, Dexter, I'll let you talk about this one.
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's hard to say without, of course, trying them out and seeing how they feel. Sapphire 2 at 3 points seems like they would be a lot stronger, even at I1, than like Lieutenant Lareer, for example, would be the only other 3-point interceptor to compare him to. But I don't know. The mobility is much higher on Sapphire 2, and the pilot ability of while you defend, if you're focused, roll one additional defense die. And then the prime thrusters and, like I said, reckless, the ability to just move that fast, ignore stress, and just get all over the board. If that was 3 points, I mean, I don't know that you'd see Lieutenant Lareer at all. Like, he would be completely phased out, I
I
think.
think counterpoint to that would
Mhm.
be it depends on the initiative. People like the curvy barrel rolls, but I don't know how much they would like a one sharp barrel roll. As much as it's fun to think about a one sharp, a one bank is usually pretty good at just being able to get you out. Yes, the one sharp can get you some nicer turns, but since you can only do the one sharp during the system phase boost, it's a little bit harder to get as much jank as you could get out of Laurier, who can boost and then curve barrel roll, or curve barrel roll and then boost into arc of something or out of arcs of something.
Okay. So now that we've got Dexter involved here, what is your favorite of the things that have been leaked so far?
I would say, it's hard. I would personally also pick the two defenders. I think they look the most fun, and I don't think you see a whole lot of defender play. So if they did come in with an underpriced defender, even the I6 or the I4, if they came in at cutting below the price, or the I6 was also 7 points, matching most of the rest of the defenders, there's a possibility you may see them a bit more, in tournaments and in a more competitive scene. I like the ability to use the shields. I think, especially because the defender is so high in speed and mobility. Like, I don't know. I'm sure there are other ships with white K turns, but like the 4K, no other ships at all. Yeah, so like the 4K, you get a target lock, and then you take a focus, take an evade, whatever you need, and after that you either you could proton cannon, you could spend your shield because you're behind them and they're not. If they are shooting back, it's not modded. Or if you're playing with Captain Yor, that Initiative 4, you can double tap and get an ion cannon, and afterwards an ionize an opponent. I love to see the offensive capabilities. That's one thing, when I was looking at, maybe not in a competitive list, but just for fun running a defender, I'd really love to be able to use the configuration that allows you to double tap when using a cannon or a missile. But with a lot of them, it just doesn't make as much sense as using the evade, the standard configuration. So having a configuration that really plays into the offensive capabilities without taking away that extra mobility seems like it could be a lot of fun. I don't know. We'll have to see what the pricing is, but at the very least, this is something that you'll see in casual circles getting played quite a bit, I bet.
I feel like defenders are a really, really tricky proposition. It's just so many points for. They are good offense. I mean, they really do great things, but so many points for something that is not as durable as you want out of that many points. I guess the best way to look at it.
So, I would argue a defender is a lot harder to fly, yes, but if you know how to fly it, you are untouchable because you just get away with everything. There have been plenty of defenders at times where they were cheaper or you could put specific things on them. Specifically, being able to evade almost guarantees you that if you are getting that first shot into that defender is missing, almost guaranteed. If it's a 2-die gun, probably not. If it's a 3-die, there's a chance if you roll all hits, but on average, the first shot into the defender is probably the hardest one, which requires your entire force to look at the defender. If not, and you're just taking pot shots at it, it's gonna run rampant and do whatever the heck it wants. So, it's kind of like a Desi. Focus fire it if you really want it dead, and it will eventually die. It will get lucky. It will also probably get unlucky, as one of the Chris's would like to say with his defender defense rolls. But they are very good chassis, and the new the new ship titles or upgrades should be very fun to play around with, especially with a one charge barrel roll or boost after you execute a maneuver. As long as you don't bump with them, they should be pretty okay.
So in other words, I shouldn't fly them.
Not true. It's just don't fly them behind your own ships is the main thing. They are great flankers. They're not so great in a pack.
So what about you, Sean? Is there anything out of the set that's getting you excited? He's muted.
I'm curious about Tycho.
Yeah, Tycho was something that kind of jumped out at me as well, just because of that ability to fire even when disarmed.
Well, the one thing with most A-Wings is they don't do enough damage. They usually can only do 2, 3. They don't pack a lot of punch, including the resistance A-Wings, which are like 5 points. At which point, why don't just go with an X-Wing and hit harder? And so, with that being the case, a ship that can just say, focus, reload, I can still shoot, and I can chunk 4 dice. Seems like it could be good. And then whenever you have stuff like it's a trap, in order to help with your defense, in case you have a horrible blank out, but you throw somebody like Hera, who's able to pass tokens, and now you have you can take the evade for juke, in addition to having the focus. Or Benthic 2 tubes could also pass, but you can do some things with Tycho to make him even better.
Now, I am still, learning a lot of things about this game, and I probably should be aware of this because I know some of my bombers have this ability, but I'm assuming that the reload ability is something that allows you to get more than one shot out of those proton rockets.
Pretty
yes,
much.
when you reload, you take a disarm token, and then you reload your munitions charge. So you can use reload, and you can get a bomb charge back. However, there are some bombs and stuff out there, like the electroproton and whatnot, where it will say on there, you cannot get this back. But if you have a reload in APT, like the Punisher for Empire, you can fire the APT and then get it back.
Sounds good.
The most promising thing out of that Tycho is that he has a static shield upgrade as well, on top of Juke and on top of a Crockett. If he is not 5 points, there's something wrong.
I like him better at 4, because if he's at 5, I'm still going to take Luke over him.
Oh, for sure. I'm just saying, like, if this was priced correctly, right? I assume he will be 4 points. If he's anything under 4, we are hitting the alarm bells.
Broken. It is broken if he's at 3.
Yeah, we need another I-5 that breaks the meta. Contrail.
Now, both he and Lando, and I'm assuming any other rebels that are coming into this, have the ability, it's a trap. So what is the benefit of that? What do you think about that ability? Is it usable even?
There is a really good chance that because you're playing Rebels, you're flying mostly a block, and if you're flying a block, and unless there's a literal TIE swarm just kind of in your face, you should have more friendlies at range 1 than or 0 to 1 of you than the enemy, unless, like I said, you're off on your own doing your own thing. You should be all right. And then free reroll.
Okay. Well, I mean, rerolls are always good.
I think it depends a lot. Like Ethan said, like if you're flying against a TIE swarm, it might not work. I think it depends a lot on what your opponent's flying and what they want to do. Because the same thing, the Empire has the exact opposite. Name of it is No Escape, where when you perform a primary attack, if there are more of friendly ships to the Empire ship than the enemy ship at 0 to 1 of the defender, you get to reroll an attack die. So, for example, maybe not even the defenders. Maybe you throw in Soontir Fell. He'll probably get priced at what 5. I can't imagine they'll make him more than the current Soontir.
I wouldn't be. I would rather have this new Soontir be 4 points, but that is a personal
4?
opinion. That is a personal opinion that I don't think anyone will agree with me with. I just don't see him getting played next to the regular Soontir. But anyways, that's my tangent.
Yeah, and that's valid. We'll see what he gets priced at. But all of the Empire builds have that, and so I'm thinking that if you run into an Empire that build that's using any of these ships, especially let's say you're flying Colonel Jendon, you're getting 6 points out of him. You're gonna want to get your full value out of those 6 points. So flying him, accompanied by a group of ships such as a TIE Swarm or something that will get in there and activate his no escape ability may be, something that people are planning to do. So I think it'll depend a lot on what you're flying against, like Ethan said.
We haven't had a chance yet to talk about Lando since nobody seems to think Lando is the favorite there. So let's take a look at Lando and see what we think about this one.
See,
Something on Soontir real quick is that they did everything they could to try and make him blank out proof.
yeah,
Because that's what he
made him,
does.
they made him pretty indefensible, or as defensible as possible. You cannot, and Apex Predator is really good. But on to the Lando point. If Jendon wasn't my first pick, Lando would be my first pick, because Jam Barrel is something so ridiculously funny to me that I love it so much.
I mean, I just noticed he's got a coordinate in there as well.
He is a funky boy.
Yeah.
Specifically a red coordinate into a red focus.
Focus,
so
yeah.
You can there's a chance you roll out of both stress.
There is a lot going on that card, and I'm trying to put it all together and figure it out here. I mean, for one, it's going to absorb a lot of damage.
It's a good old Rebel Falcon, 8-hole, 5 shield, 1 defense die. The main thing though is new Falcon title. Being able to reroll a die without an evade is very nice.
Yeah, I'm going to have to call this up to where I can get a closer look at it so that I can't read it on the screen that I've got up right now.
I got you. Do you need me to just read out all the stuff for it?
No, I've got it up here now. So I do not know the dial terribly well. Are there any red bank maneuvers for the Falcon, or is this just making the banks so that you're going to be able to clear stress?
You get 1 in 3 banks blue, essentially.
Okay.
But it makes the Falcon now really repositionable, especially with the amount of stress you can gain on this Falcon. There's so many options, honestly.
Yeah, this Falcon is practically begging you to take as many red tokens as possible. I mean, you double stress and hope your high stakes rolls out, or you use Errant Kraken and take a deplete token for the bonus primary attack. I mean, it's begging you to roll those high stakes and hope.
Well, he is the gambler there.
Yep, gotta gamble. What's funny though is that they don't actually have the name under him. It just says Battle over Endor, whereas a lot of the pilots have a name. They don't actually have the name like professional gambler or anything.
Well, I mean, it's part of the Battle of Endor pack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he can choose during the what now it's okay, activation phase is when you're starting shots, is that correct?
Activation phase is right when we do dials. So there's the system phase, and then there's the start of activation phase. They're basically the same thing, except systems is like bombs and stuff,
Gotcha.
and start of activation specifically for I think remotes for the most part, for moving remotes like the probe droids, and I think that's it. I don't think that's the only one that can reposition itself.
But
Besides the Bandos.
essentially what we are saying here is that Lando can choose to go when he wants to go, and therefore be able to block up lanes. Which, with the fat body that Lando has, it's going to be pretty easy to block up some movement paths with Lando. Because that's the only reason I can think of to change your initiative lower.
Yeah, being able to force the enemy to run into you after you already get all your actions, or you want to go first specifically so you can coordinate to another person so they get a barrel roll, get a boost, get a focus and evade before they even do their move. Or make them do one of the red actions, you make them do a blue maneuver. Now they're not stressed anymore.
Okay. I hadn't thought about that with the coordinate, that you could actually go first, therefore have somebody do something before they even get their activation.
Mm-hmm.
That is pretty nice.
Yeah.
Now, have they given us any indication on when we can expect this?
I know they said it should have been out by now, because Adepticon, I believe, said that, or I believe AMG at some point said late, um, late 2023, but since we don't have it now, or we haven't heard any words about it, it might be just shipping delays. We might not have it for a couple months. I hopefully expect it to show up by before Adepticon for
I could have
Worlds.
sworn that somebody said like January or February. Like they gave a specific date, but I don't remember what the date was. I'm horrible at that stuff. But I remember somebody specifically mentioned it's something like the 18th of January, 18th of February, something. I don't know, but it's one somewhere in there.
Do you think there's a possibility that they may be holding back to release with another campaign set or special
No.
set?
They would have probably press released something by now. Because there's no way they would just be like, oh, here's another thing that we've made behind the scenes, just on the spot with their Battle of Endor. I figured they would space it out at least, so that way
Did
we have more content overall.
Yeah, they've also said that all the other stuff that was in production for this past year was on indefinite hold, and they haven't said that anything that's on hold is off hold. So
Gotcha.
I would say that anything else is a hope and a prayer.
I feel like at some point before too terribly long, with them putting out another Imperial Rebel pack, I feel like they're going to do something First Order and Resistance before too much longer.
I hope, for the love of God, we get like an evacuation of Dakar, so I can get my beloved Star Fortress back in the game. I want my double tapping Star Fortresses.
I feel like they've got enough content that they could actually, or enough source material to work off of to be able to come up with something for that.
For sure, but there's also a lot of behind the scenes stuff that we might not know of. Maybe they can't get the go ahead from Disney or whatever, assuming that's how it works, where they have to go through names, make sure everything's good, and who knows how long that takes, and also playtesters to play the new packs, and
Yeah.
so
Well, I mean, and my time with HeroClix has taught me quite a bit about the licensing process because, different companies have a lot of different understandings with companies when it comes to licensing things. It's the reason why with HeroClix you'll see a lot more Marvel content than you will DC content, because DC is very, very particular about, every set has to have certain things in it, whereas Marvel is more like, hey, we got all these characters. Why don't you feature these on this one and these in the next one? And you know what? Go ahead, put out 4 or 5 sets a year on us, while DC's lucky to get one. But I do recall somebody on one of the chat groups, I think it was on an Armada group, was talking about how much the property was worth, how much it would take to buy out the interest in Armada from AMG. And what I think they don't understand in that equation is, yeah, you might be able to cut a deal with AMG, but a deal with AMG would not solely do it. You would have to cut a deal with both AMG and Disney, because Disney will not let the rights go to somebody that they don't approve of.
yeah. But I'm fairly looking forward to this pack for Endor. It seems like it's got a good amount of pilots, and of course probably plenty more that we haven't even seen yet. Pray for B-Wing? Question mark? Maybe?
So how many new pilots came out of, and I've got the pack, I should know off the top of my head, but I didn't actually look that deep. How many new pilots came out in the Battle of Yavin and the Battle of Coruscant sets?
I think it was on average about 8.
Yeah, 4 for each faction.
I think it's more than that.
No,
It's more.
8 per faction, right? So you
Oh,
have a little
okay.
bit of variety with your... Because, for example, I know there's plenty of droids in the Siege of Coruscant, but there's also 3 arcs, 2 V19s, and
The Jedi.
yeah, and 3 Edas, which is 8 points.
And 2 V-Wings.
And 2 V-Wings, so 10. So it could range. It could range from 8, 10, maybe 12, excluding like double generic or double limiteds, for example, like the vultures or the tries.
I'm gonna
And
have.
then there's some people like Han we're probably not going to see, or Leia, or Luke, for the Endor. But we could end up, like the B-Wings could end up coming in. Hope maybe E-Wings. I mean, they're throwing in Defenders. Why not throw in an E-Wing, and we end up getting another Corran Horn mate, for example, or who knows?
I would accept the Corran Horn pilot. I don't think they will give us E-Wings because I don't
remember E-Wings at the Battle of Endor.
Yeah, lore
Defenders aren't either.
What's that? Oh, yeah, Defenders, I don't recall seeing there either. That's true. I think Defenders were something that were created as far as physical timeline-wise, our timeline, not the timeline as far as Star Wars is concerned. They came out well after Return of the Jedi.
That is
Yes.
true. But I think there's been a bunch of other extra Disney media that has added the Defenders into, like, the Battle of Endor, quote unquote, right? Where it's like, you don't see it on screen, but it's technically there. Just how, like, there's probably plenty of ships that or characters that got added in afterwards.
Okay. I do know that when this set comes out, I will probably try to do a video of it so that, we can show it off to people and let folks see what's going on. I'm very tempted to go ahead and do that with the Battle of Yavin, since I've got that set. I've got I think I've got Siege of Coruscant as well. I'm pretty sure I did, because I found a really, really great deal on both of them. which if you look around, you can find that stuff on clearance now, and it's definitely worth picking up.
hmm The one thing we've learned from these scenario packs is Defender has Defender advantage. I mean, Empire's gonna have turbo lasers and defenders.
Yeah, I'm really again curious as to what the balancing factor is going to be on that, because they have got to have something that. And granted, I know in the Battle of Endor, the rebels were pretty well screwed, and if it hadn't been for Luke taking out the Emperor, they would have remained screwed. But still, from a gameplay balance perspective, you do not want something to be just so overwhelmingly loaded towards one side as opposed to the other.
I think the issue that they run into, and Sean and Ethan, you may have some thoughts about this as well, having played at the Mando event this last weekend, is that like at the core of the game, right? It's still a ship flying game. The best way to handicap the defenders, because they have bonus, set in place remotes, is to reduce their ship limit. But what happens when, to balance the game out, you need to give the Empire only 10 points, and they get, 2 or 3 ships in there in a game where you're wanting to fly more than 2 or 3 ships. I wonder if maybe that plays into it. Is at the core of the game, right? It's about flying these ships and shooting with these pilots at each other. So the only way to balance, and sometimes, is to kind of take that away, which is why I wonder if it seems like most of the time it skews towards defender having an advantage.
I like to think that there will be some limitation. For example, we have the other scenario packs where it's got limits to, like, you can only use these certain ships, you can only have so many large bases, so many small bases, or so many ships in general. I wonder if there's going to be a limit on defenders and any like other possible ships. Like, you can only take so many interceptors, you can only take so many, or you have to take so many TIE fighters, because who knows, we might get more named TIE fighter pilots in this pack as well. And then you have to fly a bunch of just regular TIEs, and then you have your 2 cool ships, and that's pretty much it. And then Rebels have all their name stuff, but it's a smaller, or it's, a bigger thing, because they're dealing with just turbo lasers and whatnot. We'll have to really wait until the rules to see kind of how it flows, but overall, it's just really dependent on how hard the Rebels really hit. Because 28 hull on the SSD bridge, or just the Star Destroyer bridge, is still a lot of damage.
Yeah, it takes a
win
lot.
the game.
Now, I want to get back to the Mandalorian event that you guys played in this weekend, just because I know absolutely nothing about it. Were there new pilots introduced in this, as prizes or anything?
So, the thought process was, there's 2 new scenario packs, and the main difference is there's one scenario that requires an 1823 point list, so you need to bring both of those, and then you got a regular 20 and 20. The main thing is you are required to bring a generic, so you can give them extra loadout, a missile slot, and Mandalorian upgrades as your Child of Mandalore. And so you have basically a generic that is now becoming your your action boy to get in, get a generic to be fun, and then do all the stuff. Now, of course, that makes it more expensive and all the other stuff, but both scenarios were fine. There was one that was eerily similar to crates, and the other one was defend the cargo shuttles, essentially, that spawn out of a hyperspace ring or a space station, and would just fly off the board, essentially, and occasionally do pot shots.
Okay. Now, were you limited on the factions that you could play on that?
No, you could choose any faction. So, Scum, First Order, Resistance, literally any of the factions, you can choose it, play it, as long as you have one generic. That is the only limitation, and you have to at least have 3 lists with a generic. The main thing is it doesn't have to be the same faction. right? So you can bring one rebel, one resistance, and then one empire, you know? It's really up to you on that point in time. It's more for ease of use, it's better to stick with one faction because you're not swapping out all, like, you're not switching between maybe 16, 17 different ships because, you know, one list has 7, the other one has 5, and one has 4.
Well, I'd imagine each list would fly similarly. If you don't go all out switching out factions and everything,
Yeah.
you'd have a
Sean can tell
base
you,
core build.
Sean can tell you about his amazing base building, or his base crew of 2 ships.
Yeah, I wanted to fly. Poe goes where he wants to go, and that is very tricky.
So it's a
In
pogo
addition-
list.
Yeah, because you have Poe, and then he has like BB-8, the afterburners, or not afterburners, overtune thrusters, and then slam, so that way he could just go wherever he wants. So you can just get behind you right off from the start and that sort of thing. But it is very tricky to fly. And then I also made the mistake. I thought that it would be a good idea of basically Point Fortress on the Falcon by saying, okay, here's a 6-point ship. I can just have the turrets to the side, and because it gives me an extra missile slot, I can barrage rocket out the front. I can shoot people a couple of times out the front, and then because of its dial and boost, then I could just nope out of it without people being able to catch me. That was the theory. It did not work. Because the Falcon, because of the Mandalorian child being attached to it, is now worth 9 points. And nobody's going to let 9 points with 1 agility get away.
You made it 9 points and then also jousted things with it, which was your other problem.
Yeah.
So
I
how
know.
many points does it add to
it
the
adds
generic?
3.
3 points. Okay.
But, like, a part of list building wise, it doesn't add any points. It's just like, if you kill this, you get an additional
3 points. Okay. So what do you think is the best generic for use with this?
TIE Fighter.
And I'm gonna throw that to everybody here. So although it sounds like everybody is in agreement here.
That I still think the silencer is a better choice, but yeah, these 2 goobers ran into a TIE fighter and just the TIE fighter I guess just rolled triple evades every time they shot at him.
Well, you have a TIE Fighter. It only costs 2 points for your list, but it's worth 5 when people want to kill it. But you have a 2-point TIE Fighter that has a missile. It has those 10 points, and with those 10 points, it can put Beskar plating if it wants to. Whatever, make it harder to kill with 3 agility. And are you really going to chase after an I-2 ship with 3 agility that's only worth 5 points, or are you going to worry about your objectives? And whenever you can destroy a shuttle that is worth 6 points, has 5 health and 1 agility, you're going to shoot the shuttle. Period. But now if you have like me, where it's like, or you can shoot the Falcon that's 9, then it's like, well, now you're making it juicy, but I'm making it juicy for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I think the TIE Fighter is killable. It's obviously less strong than any. Like, I brought a 4-point advanced X1. Ethan, you brought the silencer, like you said. And those are obviously much stronger. Even the Falcon is much stronger than the TIE Fighter. But the TIE Fighter is a good way, all of a sudden with that 10 missile, 10 loadout value points in a missile slot, I think the difference in what the ship can do changes most vastly in a 2-point TIE Fighter that normally has no loadout value and no upgrade slots. And all of a sudden it's got Mandalorian optics and, a targeting system or Beskar and a cluster missile, or, whatever you want to put in there, concussions. And then, like Sean said, it's not worth
Rockets
taking
if you
down.
want to.
Yeah, it's not worth taking down because not the easiest thing to kill, and it's also only worth 5 points. So the amount of output that you can get for a 2-point ship, and even if you do make a mistake flying it, you only get 5 points. Whereas my ship was the Advanced X1, and for an Advanced X1, I got some nice additions to it. But ultimately, an Advanced X1 without any of those upgrades still would have had a 3-die shot with a target lock and the ATC on it. But all of a sudden, it's a 7-point ship that only has 5 health, and it's a good target. Even the silencer, it's a good ship, and it certainly adds value to the ship. But for 7 points, it's an easier target than you'd want out of 7 points. And with the Falcon, it's an easier target than you'd want out of 9 points. If I flew again, I think I would bring the 2-point tie, just because you get so much added benefit in comparison to any other generic that you can bring, I think.
The only other thing that I could think of would be maybe like the 4-point A-wings or something, simply because you would want I don't think there's very many 3-point generics, but you're looking for 2 to 4 points that can contribute and then just get the hell out and not cost you points, because in one of the scenarios, if the child's carrying one of the crates that has to be carried, you get an extra point. Well, an A-wing that can go 5 straight that's carrying a crate, pretty good, and you're probably not going to catch it, because 5 straights are hard to get, in addition to its 3 defense and then either a focus or evade. Going to be hard. So, yeah, I would go with a 3 agility ship, simply because those things are such a pain to kill. They take a concerted effort unless the person blanks out. And you can't bank on that.
Yeah.
With the tradition of peace, they also get to pick a tradition every game.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Tradition of war that gives you an extra offensive reroll 3 times a game, or tradition of peace, which means when you defend twice a game, you can force the attacker to reroll one of their natural hits or crits. So, in the crate mode, you rolled a crit, a hit, and a blank in your 3 dice. You have mods, you're going to reroll whatever. But to start, you'll reroll that crit. So at least I have peace of mind that it's unlikely that you're going to knock the crate off. And with that, combined with Beskar plating, combined with a 3 agility ship, for the first 3 shots at it, it's very, very difficult to take off the board. So yeah, I think if you didn't take a tie generic, you don't have to, of course. A fast ship that has 3 agility is probably the right option.
All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for being on the show tonight. I do want to let folks know, while I've got them here, that Sean is going to be joining me on Wednesday for a special Armada video, as we are going to be doing the introductory Armada scenario. Since I'm not going to be available for Thursday Night Armada, I wanted to give another video going on. But other than that, I want to thank you guys for being on the show. Ethan, Dex, Sean, I hope to have you back soon. In fact, I'm planning on trying to get Dexter on here a lot more often. But
maybe not next Monday.
No, next Monday, and that I was going to hit on that. There's not going to be a show next Monday, no doubt.
Wonder why?
Yeah, I don't know. Something called Christmas is going on, so yeah, we'll be moving on. Again, I want to say good night, guys, and thanks for being on.
You're welcome. Good to see you. See you tomorrow.
All right, so again, a reminder, a lot of things that are not going to be happening that should be happening, but first off, we are not going to have a show next Monday because it is Christmas, and I am not doing a Christmas show. I have not decided yet on the New Year's show. It depends on what I've got going on, but I feel like I'm probably going to be doing a New Year's show. There will not be Thursday Night Armada this week. My work schedule is preventing me from doing that. However, again, Sean and I are going to be getting together to do a Armada on the introductory scenario. So you're going to see what things are going on right out of the box. We're going to take it a bit slow, so it is going to be a video more for newer players, but share that with your friends who may not have played, and they will actually get some knowledge out of that. We are going to be doing Tuesday Night X-Wing tomorrow night. Haven't decided if I'm going to do the stream or not. I've got a new plan that I want to try, but again, it just depends on who all shows up for the game, and we generally like to choose who's going to be on the stream based on what folks are playing, so that you guys can get an idea of some of the other kinds of builds that you might see in X-Wing. So with that, I am going to say good night. Thank you guys for watching. Again, join us on Facebook, the 13th Fleet. You'll find us there on Facebook. Join the discussion there. We'll have some questions from time to time. And you can find us on Discord. You can find us on Twitch, which we're on now, or YouTube if you're watching the replay on this. Subscribe, like it, share it with your friends, and we'll see what we can do from here. You guys have a very Merry Christmas, and hope you have a Happy New Year as well.